A brief disclaimer: the facts and views presented in the following program may have been distorted for parody purposes. If you want the complete, 100% factual truth, just go on any table tennis forum and ask. Now on with the show.
Welcome to tonight's episode of Sports Interrogation. Our guest is Adham Sharer, who was president of the ITTF from 1999 to 2014. We will be discussing the rule changes introduced during his time as president. Welcome to the show, Adham.
Thanks, Lucy. Glad to be here.
Before we start talking about the rule changes you introduced, can you give us an idea of what the table tennis world was like when you became president in 1999?
Sure thing. Back then, table tennis was struggling to get on TV around the world. The sport was getting too fast due to equipment technology, and rallies were almost non-existent, with the average rally being around 3 shots. Power loopers were dominating the sport, while other styles were struggling to survive. The ITTF had tried to slow down the sport by banning speed glue a few years earlier, but the professional players revolted, which forced us to revoke the ban.
Sounds pretty bad. So what did you do about it?
With the overwhelming dominance of speed-glued power looping in the sport, the first step was obvious. In 1999, we changed the pips-out aspect ratio rules in order to make the current world champions pips-out rubber illegal.
Sorry, you did what?
Well, we couldn't have a pen-hold short pip hitter beating all those other power loopers, could we? How could we justify banning speed glue if a pips player was the best player in the world? We had to make sure that all the top players used inverted rubbers with speed glue before we could make our move.
Ah, that makes sense. And then what did you do?
After the last speed glue ban debacle, we decided to give that a rest for a while and take a different approach to slowing down the sport. We figured if we couldn't get rid of the speed glue, we'd make the ball bigger. That reduced the speed and spin that players could produce. We pushed the change through in 2000.
And made millions of existing table tennis balls obsolete as well, forcing players to buy new expensive bigger balls.
Yes, that was definitely a bonus for our equipment manufacturers.
And was this a popular change with ordinary players around the world?
I don't know. We never asked. We don't really care about ordinary players. We look after professional table tennis. Ordinary players can play table tennis however they like, as far as we are concerned.
What do you say, table tennis fans? Was this change to a bigger ball a good idea? And you made some other important changes at around the same time?
Yes. In 2001 we introduced 11-point games instead of the old 21-point games that had been around for over 100 years.
Why was that?
Well, we wanted to get more table tennis on TV, and we figured we needed to shorten each game so that TV stations could get more advertising breaks.
And did that work?
It was better but still not enough. So we did some brainstorming and decided to add a 1-minute timeout for each player per match. That's an extra 2 minutes of ad revenue right there.
So was this good for the players?
It was good for the TV advertisers, so we figured it would be good for our advertising revenue, and thus good for the professional players who get paid out of that revenue.
And was it good for the ordinary players?
I don't know. We never asked. We only care about the professional players. The ordinary players
can do whatever they like. I get the picture. I believe in 2002 you also banned hidden serves?
Yes. Hidden serves were making it too hard for the receiver to return the ball well, so rallies were too short. This obviously wasn't good for TV. We want to show long, exciting rallies, not serve return mistakes and third ball kills.
And did that work?
I'll be honest, Lucy, this wasn't one of our great successes. It's now 2015 and we still haven't come up with a set of rules that make it easy for umpires to call hidden serves.
Why not?
We've had other priorities that were more important.
Such as?
In 2006 we banned frictionless long pips.
Why? Was that a problem at the professional level? Was it ruining the sport for TV?
No, none of the pros used frictionless long pips. Only recreational players used them.
Hang on a second. Don't you only care about the professional players? Why did you suddenly interfere with ordinary players this time?
It was making life hard for our up-and-coming power loopers. Where were we going to get the next generation of pros from if they all quit the sport after losing to old, unfit players using frictionless long pips? You gotta think ahead, Lucy.
Gotcha. Getting back to slowing the sport down, I'm guessing that after all your rule changes in the early 2000s, the equipment manufacturers came out with new rubbers and blades that were even faster, spinnier and more expensive?
Right.
So within a few years, the speed and spin of table tennis was basically back to where you started,
I'm afraid so.
but with more expensive equipment.
Yeah, at least that's a silver lining for us. Gotta love those licensing fees.
So what did you do next?
In 2008 we decided it was time to slow down the sport by banning speed glue again.
Last time you did that in the 1990s, you had a professional player revolt. How did you stop that from happening this time?
This time we said it was for health reasons. All those nasty VOCs and speed glue and boosters, you know.
But didn't the equipment manufacturers start making VOC-free speed glue and boosters?
Yeah, the ungrateful bastards. We'd help them out with the bigger ball. You would think they could have returned the favor. But it all turned out alright in the end.
How so?
The ITTF and the equipment manufacturers all got together and worked out a plan to solve things.
What was this plan?
We figured that players had discovered that you could use cheap products like baby oil to boost rubbers, so equipment manufacturers weren't getting much money from sales of speed glue and boosters anyway. So he banned all the speed glues and boosters, except for those applied at the factory. That way the pros got their boosted rubbers, while ordinary players who weren't cheats had to buy new rubbers when the speed glue effect wore off after a few weeks. And for those tight asses who insisted on using cheap illegal boosters, we decided to create rules that weren't enforceable to avoid catching them.
So everybody wins?
Yep. Except the ordinary player who doesn't cheat. They kind of get screwed with their pants on. But as you know,
The ITTF only cares about professional players?
you catch on fast, girlfriend.
So has all this slowed down the sport at all?
No, since the pros still have their factory-tuned rubbers, and the ordinary players who cheat still don't get caught. So we came up with a brand new plan.
And this plan is?
We decided to introduce an even bigger ball. And just to add insult to injury, we also decided to stop using celluloid balls, which were a fire hazard. And there was going to be a worldwide celluloid shortage.
Really? Says who?
Says us? What? Don't you trust us?
Hang on a minute. The previous bigger ball was 40 millimeters, and the new plastic ball is also 40 millimeters. So aren't they exactly the same size?
Ha. Gotcha. In fact, the old bigger ball averaged around 39.6 millimeters, while the new bigger ball must be over 40 millimeters. So although they are both 40 millimeters, they are different sizes. You see?
It makes as much sense as anything else I've heard tonight. Have there been any problems with the new plastic balls?
Just a few. Many of the new plastic balls aren't round. They go soft quickly and break faster.
And they are more expensive than the old celluloid balls?
Now you are getting the hang of it.
Any other problems?
Well, there has been a bit of a shortage of the new plastic balls, since millions of players around the world have been trying to buy them.
Let me get this straight. Since you were worried about a shortage of celluloid balls, you replaced them with plastic balls, but now there is a shortage of plastic balls?
Yeah, gets you right in the feels, doesn't it?
One final quick question. After all these changes, is table tennis any more popular on TV than before?
No. Although we do very well at the Olympics, we are one of the most watched sports there.
So after all these changes, we basically get some table tennis on TV every 4 years?
That's right. Yay for us.
Thank you, Adham. I think we all now know what the F in ITTF stands for. Fail. See you all next week on Sports Interrogation, when our subject will be sandbagging in table tennis. Why is it that America is the only country that thinks being the best of the worst is better than being the worst of the best? Good night.